4-4, this is 7, stand by a minute. Just come on, what is your attack angle?
Okay, talk to him, see what that did. Charlie Horse, 88.
24, traffic 275.
85 just made a pass in there. Can you give us any?
Go 21, 77.
Roger, sir. Be advised we have Jolly Green 21 and 66 standing by over.
Okay, I'll put it a little closer than those trees. Let me come around with a Lao 3 and I'll put it on those trees there.
Roger that, Lao 3.
You had several SAR missions that you were involved in, and we had chatted about those briefly online. So Ashcan 01.
I had two other ones that were fascinating, that where I tried to the best of my ability to pull off a pickup and failed, and my buddies behind me successfully picked the people up. So it wasn't one of those tragedies where you say, oh, I went out, I tried to get them back, it didn't work, and now they're dead or now they're captured in these cases. But they were both, the situation of both of them were bizarre. The first one was Falcon 7-4 Alpha and Bravo, which was an F-4 out of Udorn. And on that day in March of 2017, in December of 71, the Air Force lost 5 F-4s over North Vietnam. It was one of those days where we thought we were doing a trap to shoot down MiGs, and the MiGs thought they were doing a trap to shoot down F-4s, and the MiGs had it figured out better than the F-4s did. So 5 airplanes were lost. We recovered. One of the crews went feet wet out into the Gulf of Tonkin, and the Navy picked them up. The other one, Falcon 7-4, came and didn't get out of North Vietnam, but was near the Laotian border. That's who we went after. The other 3, all 6 crew members got out, and all 6 ended up in the Hanoi Hilton. All 6 were captured before we could do anything. What happened on Falcon 7-4 was that they were shot down late in the day, and we just couldn't get up there to get them, but there was a FAC there. The FAC knew where they were. So what they did at night, and we were a part of this, and I happened to be the person on the schedule the next morning to be Sandy 1, so I was going to be the on-scene commander. They took this area denial munition, which was a powder, and it had an effect on you kind of like tear gas. It made your eyes burn, it made your nose burn, it made you cough, and you wanted to turn around and go the other way. It was in no way fatal. It never killed anybody with it. But you weren't going to walk through this stuff. And so our idea was when you dropped it, it tended to spread in the direction of the F-4s dropped it. So we basically created a box around the 2 guys on the side of this mountain. And, one way, one way, one way, one way. Well, the best made plans of men. 3 of the 4 F-4 crews dropped, and they're using Loran, the same nav that the paved nail OV-10s have got. 3 of the 4 dropped perfectly on their corner of this square. Perfectly. You could see the powder. The Wizzo in the 4th F-4 got confused between the coordinates of their corner of the box and the coordinates of the survivor, and sure enough, in the dark, where nobody could see, dropped 4 cans of this Bluey 52 right on top of our survivors. So when we got out there the next morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, as the sun is coming up, the nail who'd been there for 3 hours says, Randy, the guys got in the middle of the Bluey 52, and I've forgotten what the code word was, but we didn't say that on the radio. Yeah. We said he got in the middle of the whatever, the horseradish or whatever the word of the day was. And they had to move, and they couldn't talk for a while, and they seem to be okay now. Oh, great.
So now you got to start over and find them.
Yeah,
again.
but they hadn't moved that far. So I made a couple of passes. We confirmed where they were, and we said, okay. And Ron Smith was my roommate, and Ron and I talked to this day that we're looking down there. We realize that part of that area denial stuff is really close to him, but it never occurs to us how much of a problem that is. So Clyde Bennett, who's the low Jolly, who I'd flown a number of SARs with, who was superstar Jolly pilot, said, Clyde, they're right there. We're not going to put down any ordnance. They're not saying there's anybody around them. You ought to be able to just, because we're up on a high mountain, you just ought to be able to go in and pick them up, and we'll be right there to cover you. So Clyde comes in. Ron Smith and I are doing that with the other two Sandys, so we got 4 airplanes, and just as they get in the hover above the first guy, I had no trouble finding him. He's standing there, waving at him. Just as they get in the hover, the rotor wash kicks the Blue A-52 powder up, and you hear Clyde Bennett coughing and choking, and you see the helicopter. It was all that Clyde and his co-pilot could do to keep flying. And
so they're almost incapacitated.
They're almost incapacitated. And unbeknownst to us, the minute that happened, one of the guys in the back of the helicopter, and I don't know if it was a PJ, a parajumper, or if it was one of the gunners, immediately put his mask on. So this guy's talking on the radio like a normal human being, while the rest of the crew is choking and coughing and whatever. So they get out. We call timeout. They go back to the tanker. They put on their gas mask equipment, which was very restrictive both to vision and to communication. It sounded like somebody talking to you, through a soup can or something. And they start back in again. And we're talking to the survivors. You got any noise around you? No. Any indication of bad guys? No. So we start back in. Clyde is in the hover over the guy again. And some North Vietnamese with an AK-47 has the classic golden BB, puts a 30 caliber rifle bullet through the main fuel line of one of the 2 engines on the Jolly. And what Ron Smith and I, not Ron Smith, Ron Smith was my wingman. What we observed was an amazing piece of airmanship by Clyde Bennett, because he's high up on a mountain where it's hard to hover with the weight of the helicopter with 2 engines. Now he's only got 1 engine. Well, he basically starts this dive down the side of the mountain. And from our perspective, it looked like he was just going to crash into the side of the mountain. But he's just barely clearing the treetops, and he goes down over 1,000 feet into the valley and recovers. And so we stayed there. The other 2 Sandys took Clyde to one of the very remote Laotian hard sites up on top of a hill, and basically crash landed the Jolly with 1 engine. And then we had to work with the ambassador and set up a perimeter. And the other Jolly went over, picked up the crew, took them out. So they leave this very expensive piece of equipment sitting up there. And we're out of gas. So we go home. So Randy, as the on-scene commander, has now made 2 pickup attempts, both of which failed for reasons that never, ever occurred to me before they happened. I obviously knew it was happening when it happened. And so we go back and land, and my good friend Lloyd Welkin, who I went to pilot training with, comes out with the next set of Sandys, goes in, puts down a little ordnance around the guys, runs the helicopter in, picks the 2 guys up, and comes home. So all's well that ends well, but it sort of didn't end well for this on-scene commander. And the other punchline was they flew an H-53 up to this hard site with the maintenance guys to work on Clyde's Jolly, and they took an engine with them. And here's what they did. They put a new fuel line on the engine that got shot out, ran it up and checked it. They removed the other engine that Clyde had flown out on, because in the H-53, you had the capability to go to a power setting well above normal. So he basically overtemped and burnt up that jet engine, saving the helicopter, and all they had to do was change that engine and threw it away and flew the helicopter back home. So, as I said, all's well that ends well.
Wow. You know, I've heard of guys overboosting an engine, and I was filming Operation Tailwind.
Yes.
And the third H-53 was saying how, as he was, you know, hovering, getting everybody out, he wound up putting 50 people on his aircraft.
Oh,
he said, I'm the last, I know nobody else is coming in.
Mm-hmm.
He said, so as I'm taking off, he said, I lose an engine. He said, I'm doing everything I can to keep that thing in the air, because we went from a hover, you know, he said, we were still hovering when I lost the engine. He said, so I'm just pounding it to get out of there.
The other engine.
So I overboost that second engine.
Yeah.
He said, we're plowing through the trees on the way out. He said, I'm on my way at home at 3,000 feet thinking, man, I'm fat, dumb, and happy. It's going to be a good day. And he said, then the second engine went.
Oh, no.
And he was like, oh, my God.
So he auto-rotates?
He did, and he wound up going down into a valley. He's like, I call Mayday.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm hoping somebody says, hey, there's a clearing here. He said, nobody says anything. He said,
Well, those guys were down there in the middle of nowhere for that.
Oh, yes, they were.
Yeah.
So, and, you know, the fourth Jolly, or the fourth H-53 comes in behind and
Picks them all
what's
up.
left of everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody got killed in the crash. There was a lot of, you know,
Yeah.
bumps and
But
bruises.
so they lost the H-53 then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And he said,
Now, was that a Jolly or was that one of the knives from NKP that flew with us, the special ops?
all I heard, they kept saying it was a dimmer. So it was a Marine.
Oh, it's Marine. Okay.
This
so
was like,
okay.
it was like
Yeah.
combined,
Yeah.
because they were just grabbing aircraft at the end because the team was going to get overrun. They're like,
Right.
oh, we need guys to go
Yeah.
now. Yeah, so,
Yeah.
but yeah, I believe it was a dimmer.
Okay.
It was Marine.
Yeah.
But yeah, when an engine gets cooked.
Yeah, but some of them last a long time, depending on how much you overboosted it. And in
You know
Clyde's case, he flew 75 miles and landed,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was fine. Now they replaced it. So,
But do you want to run on that anymore?
No.
At 75? Nope.
but they said it was interesting because the one that the magic bullet
Never
hit
touched
the
the
fuel
engine.
line, they put the new fuel line on that engine, just cranked right up, and it was fine because
Wow.
it quit when it was in good shape.
Take one.
Fast movers in the night means search and rescue at first light. Hey, big bird, come up, voice. Get your young ass on that horse. We took big air bursts on this SAR. This could be my silver star. We bring Charlie Grease by all means. Stands with a load. I see an F4 taking off, and I start to think, why don't they move it? Why don't they jinx? Seems like every SAR I've been on since I've been down, it was for some fast mover who was fucking around. But it's our bag and we don't care. Like the dust and we'll be